differentiate MIDI and audio, you really have to think about audio is the end result that we hear. It's the sound that comes into our ears, reproduced digitally. MIDI doesn't have any of that associated with it. It's not sound by itself. It's just an instruction. It's kind of like a piece of sheet music for robots. Think of it like that. So it's not actual sound itself, it's sound waiting to be played. I really like to think of it kind of as a robot musician. Now that robot can play back that piece of sheet music on any instrument you can imagine. Whatever kind of sounds you want. There really are no limits with what you can do with MIDI. You can even have the robot trigger loops, change effects, trigger lights, and other extra musical things. MIDI is a pretty powerful tool. But remember, it's not the end result itself. It's just the language. It's the sheet music, it's the instructions that you give the robot. And one thing to remember about MIDI is that this robot will do exactly what you tell it to. Unlike us, you give us a drum chart, and we'll interpret that thing. I mean, we'll read a few figures, but mostly we're kind of improvising on the spot. MIDI robots can't do that at all. They'll play it back exactly as you tell it to, just like a robot. That's one of the cool things and the detriments of using MIDI.
Let's explore a little bit more deeply the differences between audio and MIDI. Here I've got Logic Pro running, and I've got two tracks pulled up. One's an audio track, and one is a MIDI instrument track. Let's look at audio first. I'm going to pull up a loop, one that comes prepackaged with Logic. This conga loop here. I'm going to pull it into that track. It's going to ask me if I want to import tempo information because this loop has a specific tempo associated with it. Sure, let's do it. And let's pull it out for 4 bars. We'll talk about loops and samples here in just a few minutes. But let's look at what this audio looks like. Here's the loop. So I'm sure you've seen something like this before. You can see how these spikes correspond to the hits on the conga in this loop. Now we can see how it was actually put together. This sound was recorded and turned into a digital audio file. So as we'll see, it's just really one sound wave. Just follows one line, one wave. And this wave was constructed by taking samples, by putting a lot of discrete points at all of these points along the wave here. So just at this beginning, they said, okay, at that point, the wave has an amplitude of whatever that would be, negative something. There it's got a little bit more of an amplitude. Let's draw a line there. And you really take thousands of these samples every second, and you connect the dots to create this line. So the more samples you have, the better quality of sound you have, the more complete the sound is. And that's what it looks like. Put it all together, sounds great. That's digital audio in a nutshell. So let's look at MIDI and see what the differences are. You'll notice here, this is the clip. I can't really change it or alter it too much. This was how it was recorded. That's how it appears here. So let's look at MIDI and see how that's different. Here I've got my MIDI controller hooked up to the computer, and I'm going to be playing this Ultrabeat virtual instrument, which is a drum machine synthesizer sampler. It really does everything. We'll be exploring Ultrabeat a lot more, especially in the next couple videos. But I've got this patch, the Studio Tight Kick, and I can actually play that right from my MIDI controller. So I'm playing these sounds in, and I can rearrange them however I'd like. So what we're hearing here is actually audio. It's the MIDI information that I'm giving it transferred into audio, as we'll see. So let's record a little bit and see what it looks like. So here's what this MIDI information looks like. on a piano roll, as I'm sure you are all familiar with. We can go up here to the lists view and see the actual event information. This is a list of all the MIDI events. And I'll play it and you can see them go by here. So you can see that all of these notes correspond to certain notes on a keyboard. They all have velocity, and they all have a certain length, and they're all given a position related to the tempo of the track. Now I can alter these any way I want. As you see, I can select all of these. I can make them all shorter if I want, make them all longer. Doesn't really matter too much when you're dealing with drums and percussion, but I can move things. I'm a little early here. Let's move this onto the beat. And there's no noticeable difference in the sound quality, whereas if you were altering audio, as we'll see in the second video, there might be a noticeable difference in the quality of the audio because you're actually changing the format. You're changing the sound wave, stretching it and compressing it. Here, we're just changing the instructions. We're changing the sheet music that the MIDI robot is using to play this instrument here. So that's MIDI in a nutshell. So now that you've got a grip of MIDI and the concepts behind that, let's talk about audio for a second. Audio is the digital or electronic representation of sound. If it's purely electronic, we call it analog. If it's represented by ones and zeros, we call it digital. To turn a sound into analog audio, we begin with the sound source. That source is picked up by a microphone or other type of sensor, which contains within it a transducer. As you'll remember, a transducer converts energy from one type to another. In this case, we're converting the mechanical sound wave into an electronic signal, a series of voltages corresponding to the amplitudes in that sound wave. This is analog audio. To turn analog into digital, we have to use a process called pulse code modulation, or PCM. PCM works by dividing up this continuous electronic signal into several thousand discrete values every second. Each value is determined by the voltage and is assigned a specific binary number. To turn these binary numbers back into actual sound again, they're put together and smoothed over using a filter to create a continuous sound wave once again. Using this method, the more times you cut up that electronic signal every second, the better quality sound you get.